We basically mastered the strategy of finding pieces of land all around the United States in all value ranges from $30,000 to millions of dollars for anywhere between 10 cents on the dollar and 50, 60 cents on the dollar. Obviously, the higher the price, the higher you kind of pay for it. So you won't get a $10 million property for 10 grand. That's an illusion. But you still get those at discounts enough that you can then do the following. You basically turn around and either mark it up a little bit and sell it as a wholesale deal. So you take a $50,000 property, get it under contract for 10, sell it for 35, and you made $25,000. Made a $25,000 profit. Or you take that deal and you also mark it up almost to market value, sell it with seller financing. Often the down payment pays for what you have in the deal, and therefore you have no more money in the deal, and you actually now get cash flow from land. And so basically what we figured out is how to find these people, how to get these deals under contract, how to market them, how to sell these properties very quickly, and how to make a massive profit in the middle. The profit can sometimes be just a few $1,000s, and sometimes it can be $200,000. If you get a little bit deeper into it and you're doing like land entitlement and things like that, and more advanced strategies, your profit can be multiple seven figures. I'm working on a deal right now, and I'm going to bring my two partners that are on that deal with me. We're planning to make $3 million in one land deal. So this is the very, very basic concept. So the beauty of land flipping is also that because there's no tenants, toilets, and termites, and there's no houses, you don't actually have to do this anywhere, and you don't have to do this in the market that you live in. You live in Manhattan, there's no land. You live in, in San Francisco, a postage-sized piece of land is worth $3 million or something like that. So very simply, you can do that. You can live where you live. I guess I send a heart out right now. Yes, you can live where you live and do deals where you want to do deals, and that's one of the most beautiful things about it. So this is truly virtual real estate investing that you can do from anywhere in the world. So again. But it starts, so therefore, the very first step that you want to do, and I'll explain, I just went through it with like 90 seconds very quickly. We'll take a step back in a second, and we'll go through all the steps. But bottom line is there's 46 million pieces of land in the United States. Mm-hmm. At any given time, there's about 5% of them that the owners just don't want anymore. They're willing to give them up at huge discounts, and you're ready to pick them up. So that's at any given time, there's 2.3 million pieces of land that you can go pick up for pennies on the dollar, for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 cents on the dollar, and then mark them up to 60, 70 cents. So again, take a $100,000 property, put it under contract for 30, mark it up to 60, sell it, make a $30,000 property. Take a $300,000 property, put it under contract for 180, so mark it up to 230, make a $50,000 profit. And you do that often without even purchasing the property yourself. Without even using your money to buy these properties, by using a concept that's called assignment or double closings. Double closings where you buy the property and you sell the property the same day, and you use the buyer's money to pay everyone involved. Let's go. The very first thing that you need to consider is that you need to take into consideration is where are you going to do this? Because I just showed you, you can do this anywhere in the United States. And the first thing I want to tell you is there are such a thing like bad markets. Mm-hmm. So not everywhere in the United States is this a perfect strategy. It works everywhere, and over time you can even do it in the more difficult markets. But the very first thing is you want to make sure that you select the right area, because that's like the first domino. If that first domino falls the right way, then guess what? You do this in the right area, you contact the right leads, you get the right responses, you make the right offers, you get the right deals, and you end up making a ton of money. So let's talk about that right away, and let me share my screen for that, right? How about that? So let's go into this. So the very first thing we want to do here is we want to go and share with you the following. So the very first thing you want to do is you want to go to Google. And you very simply want to Google like the 25, I think what I Googled here was the 25 fastest, was the Google thing, the 50 fastest growing metro areas in the United States. And what comes up is a bunch of links. I clicked on one of them, and what comes up here is the fastest growing places in the United States. Now the thing is, what we want to be in, that's also all in the work in the playbook here. Yeah. You don't want to be in the fastest growing area of the United States. Very simply, why? Because everyone and their brother, even the last seller, has realized that their property has tremendous value, and they're not going to give them to you for pennies on the dollar. Guys, this is not a get-rich-quick program. This is not a wake-up-wealthy tomorrow program. This is something you want to apply some logic to it. You want to apply some common sense to it. And the common sense is that where do you get the best bargains? Well, you get the best bargains not in the hottest markets, because everyone knows there's massive value on it. And you also don't get the best bargains, or I mean, you get the best bargains in the worst markets, but then you can't sell them in the worst markets. So where you want to be is somewhere in the middle. So let's look at that. So I'm going to ignore the first 15, 20 markets here, and I'm not going to look at Ocala, Florida. I'm not going to go to Tallahassee. I'm not going to go look at Fort Myers. I'm not going to look at the things Sarasota and things like that. I'm going to go down there, and somewhere down here, there's Oklahoma City. Anyone thought that Oklahoma City is a fast-growing city? There we go, right there. It's like a hidden kind of market. Charleston, South Carolina, Denver, Boise, and then somewhere here, oh, Phoenix. Well, let's grab Phoenix, right? Happens to be the market we live in. So it happens to be the market we live in. We know it's an always growing market, and it's a huge area. So great. So therefore, let's go over here. So one of the things you can do now is you can pull up a resource called World Population Review. And World Population Review, what you can do is you go to the very top, and the very top, you click on U.S. states, and within the U.S. states, you can see this map here. We're going to click on, in this case, Arizona, and it basically shows you how many people live there and so on, population. But I can look at Arizona, and within Arizona, I can now, if my internet comes up, and we can skip all these kind of ads. What happened here? Where's World Population Review? There we go. It has 7.5 million people living there. Population growth is steep, but it's also a very large area. And somewhere here, here's all the different counties. And if I look at, for example, Maricopa County, has like 4 million people, like more than half of the state lives here. If I look at Maricopa County, it'll give me some statistics. It'll give me some statistics in terms of, again, takes a little bit, but bottom line, you can look at here the median age. It gives you owners versus renters. It gives you income, and all of these kind of things, education level, and somewhere there, and I'm going to skip it right now, I think because my computer is just very, very slow. It should also give you a growth rate of the county. So you can play around with that, and it gives you some nice information. So bottom line is, when you go onto these kind of different kind of website, you can see which ones is the most populated ones, which ones are ones that are growing. And if you use that together with Google, you get a really good indication of what is this growing. Is this area growing like freaking crazy? Then it's perhaps not the best area to be in. Or is this area shrinking? Then it's also not the best area to be in. Or is this area a kind of middle of the road, slow growth, medium growth kind of area, right? We are typically dealing with three kinds of properties. Number one, lots in the city, infill lots. Think about a street, 35 houses, an empty lot, ready to be built. The neighborhood, it's, let's say, $500,000 house neighborhood. The lots are worth like 100 grand, typically about 20% of market of the house values in the area. And boom, if you can get a deal like that for $70,000, $80,000, you sell that to a builder for full market value tomorrow, you make $20,000, $30,000. Second kind of property is, and there's a lot of our bread and butter deals are in that area, is in the path of growth. So just outside of the larger areas. Sometimes that's a few miles, sometimes that's half an hour drive, depending on how big the metro area is. And there's a lot of land usually available, and ideally a lot of land also sold. That's our second area. And the third area is usually more like larger acreage. Think about your own mini ranch. Now, guys, think about that. Let me ask you, who would love, like, we're living in a virtual world today, right? After COVID, everyone worked from home. Then now today, about still over a third of the US population works from home. That's 50 million people. Let me quickly ask you, if you work from home, or if you had a chance to work from home, would you want to live in the city in a high rise, or in a little cookie cutter home with houses all around you? Or would you rather like to have 5 acres, half an hour outside of town, that you have space around, but close to the interstate, and you're in town in half an hour when you need to go to a business meeting, but you have your space? Who would love to have 5 acres, half an hour outside of town? That's basically one of the properties, because there's a huge market, and I can quickly tell you who buys those. Number one is people like you, people that work from home and want to have a piece. Also people that are about 10 years away from retirement and realize that they need to cut costs in retirement because they don't have much savings. They're buying a piece of land today, they pay it off in monthly payments over the next 10 years, they put a mobile home on there, and they got a solid retirement. Now, the third kind of property is larger acreage, 20 acres, 40 acres, 80 acres.
Can I add
Absolutely, go ahead.
A nuance, that we've known for years, because guys, we've been doing this now for almost 2 decades. So that compounding in terms of knowledge is there, and it's been compounding every single year, one thing that we are starting to do is we're starting to really try to understand even further our avatar for this path of growth buyer. And for example, we are now targeting a specific demographic of people, that might have high savings rates and that therefore could come up with a higher dollar amount either for down payment or a higher dollar amount for a wholesale, kind of situation. And those are, for example, Asian Americans. We're looking for, a demographic like that is a very financially astute type of demographic that might be interested in the land in specific counties and in specific states of the U.S. To invest and basically in this path of growth, where the growth is going to be coming over the next 3, 5, 8 years, and they're willing to invest and pay good money to have a good piece of land.
Yeah. So a lot of if you simply go and ask yourself, who would love to have 5 acres outside of town that's ideally positioned such that, first of all, you can enjoy it, but also it's close by, you can drive there in 20, 30 minutes, but also as the city grows and approaches, it goes up in value dramatically. Well, what you come out with is exactly people that either go retire or people that want to have that remote area or people who have an investment mindset, right? And so you ask yourself, who has an investment mindset? And you come to certain conclusions, and that's what you then focus your advertising on, but that's leading forward towards Wednesday, where we talk all about how to sell these kind of properties.
I just wanted to give you a sneak preview.
How that makes sense. Absolutely. So with that said, guys, so the third kind of property we sell is, again, those larger acreage, and those are interesting for the hunters, the outdoors people, the people that love hiking, biking, swimming, kayaking and things like that, and they just love to have their space. And typically these are people that make a lot of money. They have the big F-150, 350, F-350 truck, they have a bunch of toys, they have an RV, they have things like that. So again, let me ask you guys, who would love to have your own 40-acre ranch or 300-acre ranch? Who would love to be able to have your own space that you can bug out on, that if we have World War III, just kidding, but that you can go out into nature, that you can just spend your weekends on. And today with Starlink as a satellite dish, right, you can actually have full communication out there. Look at that, me, yes, I want this. So you guys can already see that the kinds of properties that we are focusing on are, first of all, there's a lot of them. And secondly, there's a lot of demand. And that's what makes this business work so well. We're not teaching you to focus on junk land. We're not talking about some desert, 2 acres in the middle of nowhere that's worth $4,000 that you can probably pick up for $400 or so. Yes, you can do that too, but that's not the business model. Plus, in the current market, these properties don't sell. These bottom end $4,000 or $5,000 lots, they don't sell very well. What sells is the $30,000 plus properties, and they sell better than they ever sold. Let's go into Zillow, and I pulled out the west side of Phoenix. Why the west side? Because on the east side, what we have is Native American reservation over here. We have Native American reservation over here. We have a lot of state land over here. And we have some properties here available too, but the west is really where the city is growing. And you'll see that by just looking at how many yellow dots are there. So the first thing is in Zillow, you go and you change the selection. You change the home type to lots and land. And then you go look at the details here. And you go look at the details here, and on the more details, you see that what I'm looking at it doesn't matter the size. We do not care necessarily how big or small a property is. Like a little 2,000 square foot lot in Paradise Valley, Phoenix, which there's not, the minimum size is an acre, but let's say in Manhattan it could be worth $10 million, right? A 10-acre parcel somewhere else could be worth $10,000, right?
Yeah,
So
$1,000 an acre.
like size doesn't, in this case, doesn't matter. It's just location that matters and the value that comes with it. So no size, but what we're going to look at, what the lots that sold in the next 6 months, you can go as far out as 12 months. So if I do this, here's what comes up. And if I zoom into these areas, what I'll see is there's an entire pocket of lots that sold over here, and they sold all for about 55, 55, 55, 52, and then some other ones for a little bit more. So let's click on this one, and what we'll find is this one is 4 acres in size. This one is 1 acre in size. So no wonder that the one from 1 acre sells for 55, 4 acres sells for 133, and that's actually already giving us a little bit of valuation pieces, which we're going to talk about tomorrow. That if you're outside of town, the larger the property, the lower the price per acre. So in other words, if 1 acre sells for 55, wouldn't 4 acres sell for about $220,000, because that's 4 times 55? Yes, if it would be a linear curve, but on the land side, from the valuation side, is the larger the acreage, the lower price per acre. So the fact that a 4 times larger property sells only for about 2.5 times the price makes sense, right? That's something I want to give you. Man, we have all fireworks even going on here. Right?
I love it.
So that's an important kind of thing. But the most important thing I want to share with you here is, if you look at that, if I now change the picture here from map to satellite, what you'll see is that area is completely empty. In other words, if there's a 1 acre parcel here, is there more 1 acre parcels all around here?
Of course.
And the answer is yes. So could you go, if in 6 months there's like 15 properties that sold here, could you go into this particular area and go get a list of properties in that area? The valuation is pretty simple, because an acre is worth $55,000. 4 acres is worth $130,000. What is this one here? 5 acres is 105. Probably the difference is like access to utilities, or one of them is on the main road, the other one might not, or things like that. So
maybe there's a wash, yeah.
Maybe there's a wash going through it, and so on. But bottom line is, like, you have that kind of general valuation, and you can simply go and now select an area. Guys, got this? This is how you select areas. You go into a market. We identified from Google search. Here's like this is one of the modestly growing areas. We went in, we looked in the areas, we saw there's some properties, the value they're selling for $50K, so therefore, great. So so I can probably pick them up for 25 over there. From some people that don't want them anymore. Again, at any given time, 5% of people are willing to just let them go, because they've owned them for 40 years. They don't care about them anymore. They're sick and tired of paying property taxes. They're sick and tired of having to maintain them. Perhaps the owners have passed away and the heirs have them. There's a million of reasons why why people are willing to let those properties go. And then you turn around and you sell them you put them perhaps on the market for $45,000, and it flies off the market. So you get it for 20, sell it for 45, make a $15,000 profit right there. And again, as I mentioned earlier on, in this system, you don't have to go down to Arizona. You don't have to drive around driving for dollars. You don't have to go door knocking. You don't have to go sit in smelly kitchens of rotten houses, hoarder houses, or anything like that, and discuss and negotiate and get these properties out there. Another benefit of the system is that these pieces of land typically are owned free and clear by the owners. Mm-hmm. They're owned free and clear because banks typically don't lend on land. And because banks don't lend on land, these people had to buy these properties cash, or they had to buy them by asking the seller for seller financing. So perhaps they bought these properties 30 years ago for $10,000, put $2,000 down, and paid $300 a month for the next 5 years, and paid it off that way. So that's the concept of seller financing. And again, that's the 3 ways that we make money with this business. Yeah. The first way is simply wholesaling. Yeah. Now, wholesaling typically works in the way that we use what's called a double closing. Now, in a double closing, what you do is you take a property like that, like I just showed you, you put it on a contract, it's worth $55,000, you put it on a contract for $15,000, you then go put it on the market for $35,000, and then you have a contract with the seller for 15, you have a contract with the buyer for 35, and you send both of these contracts to the title company. So the title company now opens 2 sets of escrow, and then one for the purchase transaction, one for the sale transaction. But then what the title company does, they use the buyer's money. The buyer then sends in $35,000 plus closing costs. So perhaps $37,000 to cover the closing costs. So the buyer sends in $37,000. The title company then takes $2,000 for themselves, sends $15,000 to the seller, and sends $20,000 to you. You just bought and sold a 5-acre or 1-acre parcel in the outskirts of a bigger city in the path of growth without using any of your own money. So now you have it under contract with a seller for $15,000, and the property's worth $55,000 because we just went onto the Zillow and we saw that similar properties sell for $55,000. Then you go and you market it for $35,000. So you market it for $35K, and for $35,000, why? Because very simply, because you want to sell it quickly. You want to have it to be the cheapest property in the market, and then somebody else is asking how fast does it sell? Well, if you're selling it for a steep enough discount, it can sell in as little as a couple of days or a couple of weeks, and it shouldn't take more than 3-4 weeks to sell if it's priced right and if it's in the right area. So then you basically have it on the market for $35,000. You find that buyer. The buyer says, I want to buy it. You sign a sale agreement with them. And then you send both of these agreements to the title company. Title company opens 2 sets of escrow, does all the paperwork, sends all the paperwork to everyone. But then at the end of the day, the only person that sends in the money is the buyer, the end buyer. The end buyer has it under contract for $35,000 from you, plus closing costs, $2,000, $37,000. So they send in $37,000. They then go, and then the title company then takes the $37,000, keeps $2,000 for their efforts, sends $15,000 to the seller. The seller is good, records all the deeds, and sends you $20,000. You just did a deal without using any of your own money.
Using the buyer money.
Yeah, using the buyer's money. The second way you can do that is with actually seller financing. You can do the exact same thing. So you take that property worth $55,000. You have it under contract for $15,000. But now, with seller financing, you don't have to discount it. Because essentially what you're doing is you're allowing the buyer to pay it, to buy it from you in monthly payments. So the first thing you do is you mark it up almost to market value to, let's say, $50,000. And then you market it and say like, hey, somebody wants to buy it, it's $50,000, or just give me $15,000 down as a down payment, and the remaining $35,000, I'm going to allow you to pay that $35,000 off over the next 15 years in monthly payments of $400 or $500 or something like that. So when you do that, people give you a $15,000 down payment. Again, you use that to pay the seller. So again, you have no money in the deal, and the remaining $35,000 is now being paid to you in monthly payments of $500 or $6,000 a year for the next 10, 12 years. So that's over 12 years, that's $72,000 of pure profit with no penny out of your pocket.
Yeah, our daughter here in Maricopa County was able to put a deal under contract for $6,000.
No, you don't have to have a license to do this.
On a Saturday, we listed with a realtor. We engaged and hired one of the Michael Jordans of realtors for the land space here in the area. 4 days later, on Tuesday, we had 2 competing offers, and we took the highest offer at $40,000, even though it wasn't a cash offer, because they were offering to pay $15,000 down, and with those $15,000. Our daughter Sophia could pay the seller $6,000. She could pay the realtor $4K, for her fee, and we still had money for escrow and money to keep, in her pocket. And now Sophia, for the next 5.5 years, on the remainder $25,000 that the seller, the buyer still owes her, she's getting $514 every single month, basically coming in, and that's her allowance, because the Bosch family doesn't believe in an allowance. We believe in her doing some work, to procure herself her own allowance, and that's basically what she's doing. And it might not seem as much, $500, But if you now look at this and you do 10 deals where you're getting $500,
free money,
that's
Michael.
$5,000. You know, if you do 20 deals like this is $10,000 every single month coming in like clockwork. Yeah. So you can you can have these quick wholesale, huge cash injections into the bank. Or you can start building basically these monthly payments coming in of $500 at a time that can really grow. You know, for us, they've grown to over $70,000 in monthly cash flow just from land payments that are coming in, whether we do anything for the land or not, you know, and that gives us the opportunity to really make decisions out of by being in our God zone and creator mode and not out of despair.
In other words, if a 16-year-old kid can do it, everyone can do this.